Welcome, everybody, to another quick episode of Endless Urgency. I am your host, Mike Nellis. I'm grateful to be back, finally. Took way too long to get Mike Madrid back on the show, and Mike is one of the smartest human beings that I know on many topics, but certainly at least he schooled my ass on redistricting like 6 months ago, and we're going to give him his due today. But we're going to talk about two topics today, guys, because the first topic is, one, holy shit, someone was actually arrested for doing crimes with Jeffrey Epstein. It's possible. So we're going to talk about what happened to the man formerly known as Prince Andrew. And then we're going to talk about gerrymandering and how the Republicans may very well have fucked themselves in Texas in a way that I think is going to be really, really funny come election night in November. While we're getting started, do us a favor, hit that heart button for us so that more people get a chance to join. Leave a comment. Tell us where you're watching this from. Tell us, your reactions to the topics that we're discussing, and I'll try to shout out a couple of them. If you have questions for Mike, let me know, and we'll jump in. Mr. Madrid, let's just start with this. How the hell are you?
I'm good, buddy. Like I was saying, I saw you and then I saw Joe and I was like, I got to reach out to my guys. Like, the energy, especially when the two of you guys are on together. At some point, we got to get the three of us. I'll just be like kind of, fanboying because the energy you both have, and then together, it's like this ball of like the sun kind of unraveling. It's great. I think we all need to see it.
Yeah, I was talking about Joe Walsh, guys. I have a show with Joe on Fridays. That's actually how we booked Mike today. I've actually pushed Mike 2 days now because I'm so fucking busy. I keep having to move him. But no, I love Joe Walsh. And if you had told me when I first met Joe, I can tell you guys a quick story about Joe. I may have said it 1,000 times, but when I met Joe because he was thinking about running for office again, and somebody was like, "You should meet Mike Nellis and talk about his digital firm and see if you could build something." And when I met him, he was just such a decent human being. But the first thing I said to him was, don't ever Google my tweets at you from 20 years ago. Just don't. Because I'm an early adopter of Twitter, and I definitely said some things at Joe Walsh.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you though, I mean, it's that era. Like if you ever told me that like Marjorie Taylor Greene would be making sense sometimes,
yeah,
you'd be like, wait, what's happening? It's just it's an odd moment. And we're going through the looking glass here.
I'm this close to maxing out to Thomas Massey. Like, I just every day he impresses the shit out of me.
There you go. That's what I mean. It is nuts. And Joe Walsh, like I said, I love the guy, I love his energy. I call him Thomas Paine because he's got so much energy and like fire for the fight. And he's like that guy who's like kind of the crank personality, but he's brilliant and he's right. Yeah. And he's so passionate about it. It's like that's what catalyzed the revolution. And so I love him. And like when I saw you guys together, I was like, oh, this makes all the sense in the world.
It's awesome. He's somebody that, and I talk about this with Massey too, is like with Marjorie Taylor Greene, she didn't find her anti-Trump voice until she was ready to leave Congress, and she retired the day with her pension vested. There's nothing courageous about that. But with Joe, lost his job, lost punditry opportunities, could be in the administration. Like, he's taken a real risk. So is Massey. Like, Massey's running for re-election while fighting Trump on Epstein. I admire people who seem like they actually believe in something at a time when it seems like nobody fucking believes in anything. And there, by the way, that's a lot of people on the left, I think, are very situational in what they believe in and don't believe in.
It's just the world we're in. And like I said, I think, Mike, I do believe, and I know I've said this a million times, but there is something different where this moment, I think people of conscience and people of belief and principle are starting to find each other again. And it is forging something new where it's like, when Mike Nellis and Joe Walsh and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Ted Massey and Joel, Raskin and all these Eric Swalwells are all coming together and like fighting the same fight, it is forging something new. It's saying something bigger than sort of the partisanship that has brought us down. I'm hopeful for that. And I sometimes I'm a little bit contrarian in being as hopeful as I am for this era because I believe character and virtue is built through struggle. And we've been struggling for 10 years now, Mike. Trump came on the national scene in public life a decade ago. Like, we've been dealing with this stuff for 10 years.
Yes.
And it's just sucked up so much energy from the country and from what good it could have been done. But I do believe, and I would love your opinion on this, it feels like when there are this many defections, when the entire House conference turns on Trump on the Epstein files, when we're getting more and more data, piecing more and more, and firings are starting to happen, and it's not near the accountability that needs to happen, but small accountability. When 8 Republicans caucus with the Democratic senators to say, hey, mate, we got to rein back the ICE stuff. When our allies are standing up and saying that America's, you've lost your stature in the world, it feels different. Like something is different. And then when you look at the election results from last year and this year and the dramatic turnout swings we're seeing in Texas right now, I mean, people are ready to move past this chapter in a meaningful way. That's my sense.
Yeah, no, I think people are desperate for this era of our politics to be over. I damn sure know that I am. And the way I've been framing this is I give credit to John Ossoff for popularizing the phrase the Epstein class, but I think it's the perfect way to merge where like all of us in different areas have been into one rallying cry of what we have to do, because there's the Epstein class, then there's everybody else. And at this point, I don't give a shit who you voted for in 24. I don't care in the Democratic Party. I don't care who you voted for in 2016. If you're still mad about Bernie losing the primary, I'm sorry. I was on Bernie. We lost. Like, it's time to just move on from those fights, because if we're going to solve any problem that exists in this country, it's all because of the same group of people. Okay. You're mad about what Epstein and his associates did to little kids on an island. That's the Epstein class. You're mad about all the people who got tax breaks in the Republican budget bill. It's the same group of people. Your wages aren't growing because of the Epstein class. You're not able to buy a house because of the Epstein class. It's the same stuff. It's not immigrants. It's not women. It's not crazy communist liberals and Zoran Mandani. It is a group of wealthy, powerful, well-connected people who win no matter what happens. And to them, partisan politics is a game that they can play to pin us against each other. Like, what they want is they want me to hate you, Mike. They want me to go back into your past as, you know, a Republican when we were on different sides, and they want me to hate you. They want me to hate Joe Walsh. When I did, you know, I'm sure you're familiar with Michael Knowles, right?
Yeah.
Michael Knowles has his show Bar Fight on the Daily Wire. They flew me out to debate Michael on a bunch of topics. I got to pick my topic. I picked Epstein because I was like, fuck you, we're going to play on my turf. We're playing on my turf today. Just so you know, I'll tell you, my topic was the Epstein cover-up reveals the deeper rot at the core of our country, or something like that. And Michael Knowles was like, Zoran Mandani got 15 people killed in New York City this weekend. That's what his was. So we were like, fine, fuck it. I think I was the first time anybody came in with like one where it was like targeted right at him. But I opened my speech that I gave to the crowd with, we have a powerful group of people that are taking advantage of us, and they want me to hate you, and I refuse to hate you. Like, I'm not going to hate you. I don't agree with you on a lot of stuff, but I'm tired of being told that I have to hate you because you have a different culture than me, because you dress differently than me, because you talk with a Southern accent. I don't give a shit about any of that anymore. And it was the first time ever. They cut this out of the show when they produced it, Mike. But the bar at the end of each debate, they vote, like, you know, blue or red in the crowd. First time Michael's ever lost the debate. And afterwards, yes. And by the way, they cut it out of the show, and I'm so pissed off about it.
That's not right.
It's bullshit. It's bullshit, but it's fine. But people afterwards were coming up to me and buying me drinks, and I stayed they had another show after where Harry Sisson and Chris Mowry debated with Michael. And I stayed and just talked to people for like 3-4 hours. And like,
that's awesome, Mike.
They were good people. Some of them were a little bit. I'd had enough of some of them by the end, but like, because there were a couple there, because this guy kept asking me if I was trans, and I was like, you need to seek professional help, my friend. But again, I'm tired. I've been hogging the mic for too long, so I may hand it back to you, but like, I'm tired of just hating on everybody. I don't want to hate you. I disagree with you, but like, let's get back on the same page, because we got to move this country forward.
Brother, that's it. Trump fatigue is real. The fact that you've got the Joe Walshes and Mike Nellis's and Mike Madrid's coming on the show saying the same thing, saying let's forge a new path together, I think is very, very hopeful. I'm seeing signs, not just in politics, like I was just pointing out with some of the defections with Republicans, not nearly enough, but some measurable, quantifiable, regular, you know, working against Trump. But in the culture, people started to talk about the post-MAGA, post-Trump era. Like, what does it look like post-Trump now? Yeah. That's going to really accelerate after the midterms when the Democrats do really well. And I think the seeds of what you're saying in that room with really hard right folks, where you're just saying, look, I refuse to hate you now. Like, I refuse to hate you. And maybe, just maybe, it's a full circle with the Michelle Obama moment, where there was a time for every season, and now that season is to go high now. Like, we're not going to go low forever, because if we all go low forever, and I'm saying this as a Lincoln Project guy that was playing in the gutter. Like, there's a time for that, but it's not all the time. It's not forever. And I think that is, I think, the hope of the moment. I may be Pollyannish yet again, but I'm never going to be, you know, I'm always going to be hopeful, the same way you were saying I refuse to hate you. I will always be hopeful about what we can believe and what we can create together if we just commit to it.
Yeah. And if you look through American history, right, the periods of the most intense progress, the periods that we are proudest of America, were always preceded by the worst times. They just always were. And
well said.
We're going through some pretty shitty times right now. But the next phase could be really good if we get it right. And both political parties are going to have to nominate the next generation of leadership for them. And it's different if it's Tucker Carlson versus Stephen A. Smith, or if it's John Ossoff versus J.D. Vance. I pray for that latter one, because that one would Democrats win 48 states if it's John Ossoff versus J.D. Vance, in my opinion.
I agree 100%.
I salivate at that at night as a Democratic strategist. I have one question from the comments, then we'll get into our actual first topic. But Raymond asked what the photo behind me is, and I'm surprised nobody's asked before, but this is a photo. This is downtown city of Chicago along the river. There was a young man in I think it was Vietnam, who dove on a grenade and saved his platoon. And they hosted a parade for that young man. And the mayor of the city is giving a medal and an award to the father to honor his sacrifice. Oh. And I was looking for a patriotic photo that I wanted to have behind me with an American flag. I wanted it to be in Chicago. And I found this one. I liked it. And then I did a bunch of research on it. I have a whole sheet, like it's somewhere in my desk, of the young man's name and his family and stuff like that. And I just really liked it. So that's what that is. So I wanted to find something that was meaningful, and I didn't want to the original idea was like, oh, we'll put a photo of my family back here. Or I was like, I wanted something that was patriotic, because I feel like Democrats run away from posting stuff like this behind them. And that's a mistake. I mean, you've got Abe Lincoln right behind you, which is that's a hell of a statement right there.
Yeah, that's a reminder too of, I think, my role, I think, during this dark decade now, again, I hate saying that it's been 10 years, but has been to hold up a mirror to these people that I have known. Many of them were personal friends. I feel betrayed at a whole lot of levels as an American. I mean, I've gone through that grieving process, but I'll never not articulate the fact that the Republican Party at its origin was the first Black Lives Matter movement. It was about race relations, and this bastardization of trying to argue now that the parties are different, or whatever. The Democratic Party was slavers. It's so ridiculous. It doesn't even pass the smell test, but that tells you kind of where the Republicans are at now. And that's why, to me, it's important to just kind of hold up. I've got Frederick Douglass and Thaddeus Stevens right here to the right. Those are the pillars, to me, of the Republican Party, because they were about social justice. And Mike, you've known me long enough now. Like, I don't have much of an appetite for Republican or Democrat. What I do know is this: whatever comes afterwards, you will be locked in arms with the Joe Walshes of the world, fighting for working class people. And whatever coalition that creates, that's hopeful to me. That's hopeful. Maybe it's a Democratic Party. I don't think it's going to be a Republican Party. Maybe it's a third party. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But I think that what we've all learned is that we have to really care about each other and people and those that need each other. We need to be there for them again. And maybe this is the lesson of this dark decade. You've got to fight against injustice. You've got to fight against people gaming the system. Power and money is always going to be this corrupt part of our government, unfortunately. Yeah. But we've got to fight back, and I think that we're doing it across the aisle in a way that we haven't in a long time. Small but measurable, and I think we can get there and build that out over the course of the next few years. That's my hope.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's well said, and I do think the borders are shifting, right? The sand is shifting beneath our feet. The only thing that I want to see more of, and this is from the Republican Party, is what I said earlier about Massey, is I want more people that are going to stand up and then stay and fight. Make them remove you from office. Like, I'm currently in a weird Twitter feud with Congressman Don Bacon, who's mad at me because I compared him to Thomas Massey because he's retiring, and then now he's found his backbone, and he decided to attack me, which I don't really care about that, but I keep writing back, don't you have work to do? Which I feel like that has to drive him crazy. But because I want these people to stay. Like, I wish Marjorie Taylor Greene had said, all right, I'm out and I'm upset with this, but I'm going to stay and fight. And that, to me, when you leave, it tells me you're not serious. It tells me that it's a political play, that it's I want to get on the View play, I'm selling a book play. And I've just had enough of that. You got to stay, you got to fight, you got to put some skin in the game, for any other lack of a phrase. I want to thank everybody who's here. We've got about 1,000 people, which is awesome. I'm with Mike Madrid. Please make sure you subscribe to him. We haven't even gotten into our first topic. We did 15 minutes off the top of our domes, which is, I love you, Mike. Yeah. Make sure you subscribe to Mike, become a paid contributor to help support him. If you'd like to become a paid subscriber, it's me, $8 a month, $80 a year goes a long way, helps pay for our staff. I don't take a dime of it. It's for the office and it's for our staff. And the other things we're doing, I sent an email last week. I'm a YouTuber now. So we're using the resources to really break into the YouTube space. We've already got 21,000 subscribers, guys. And it's because of you all. So that's only in about 4 weeks, and I'm not even good at it yet. I'm going to get good at it. soon. Mike, let's talk about Prince Andrew, because I've been so frustrated with the Epstein files, because to me it feels like over the course of multiple presidential administrations, over the course of 2-3 decades, people have known. This is like the Catholic Church scandal. It's like people knew what was going on. They didn't do anything. There was a class of people who leaned on each other, that supported each other. This Kathy Rumler thing, she was, White House deputy counsel, I believe. And, she's exchanging emails with Epstein. She's tipping them off about like the investigation and the things that she knows about. And there's just like whole class of people, Democrat, Republican, Independent, supporting one another. Nobody gets arrested, but in the UK and throughout Europe, people are being held accountable. So it is possible, based on the files, to do this. And I just want to get your take on it, because I'm steaming mad that it doesn't seem like anybody's going to be arrested for this.
So here's the thing, and I think this is really interesting. The Prince Andrew, or whatever his name is, or title or lack of title, is Andrew
Mountback Windsor, I learned today. So, and you know what? That's too long. I'm not going to fucking call him that.
So. Let's just call him Andrew for the sake of discussion.
By the way, did you see the king had to release a statement?
Yes.
And he didn't even call him my brother. Ugh. Like, I was like, that's cold, man. I mean, good for the king, to be honest with you.
Yeah, this is beyond, cordiality at this point. Right. Even brotherly love. It's like, this is just awful bad stuff. But here's a couple things about the Andrew story, that saga, that really fascinate me. The first is, he is a very well-known global figure, but he also has next to zero influence in anything that is going on.
Right.
Why is it that the one guy that has the biggest name but the least influence is the one that has been out there for the past few years, tossed out, and we know the most about his story, or at least did until this latest batch of Epstein files come out? I think that's just weird. I'm not saying that there's anything good about what he did. He needs to stand up and face justice. But I almost feel like there's an orchestrated part of trying to have him be tribute and to see if he was going to be able to take some of the fall for all this as a smoke screen from not having everybody look at everything else. But here's the other thing I want to consider. I would love your thoughts on this, Mike. Jeffrey Epstein is clearly a central player in this really dark, ugly web of pernicious, dangerous, illegal activity that harmed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And it's also increasingly clear that he was probably working at the behest in some way, shape, or form for some nefarious foreign actors. Mm-hmm. Do we really believe he's the only one?
No.
His whole job was to get compromise on wealthy, influential, powerful cultural figures. There's more than one Jeffrey Epstein out there. There has to be. Like, this web that we all thought was kind of this broad conspiracy theory of stuff going on, it gets truer and truer every day. And frankly, it gets a little bit more depressing every day when you realize just how deep the rot goes at every level of these cultural institutions, not just government, and not just our government, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not much of a tinfoil hat wearing guy. Like, I don't buy into a lot of conspiracy theories. And when I do, I like them to be harmless conspiracy theories. For instance, I firmly believe that Stevie Wonder can see, and that there's nothing wrong with him that a good pair of prescription glasses couldn't fix. Like, I just firmly believe that. And that's a very common online conspiracy theory that Anthony Anderson introduced me to on Jimmy Fallon like a couple years ago. And I was like, shit, I'm super down for this. And like, I've seen Shaq talk about it. So like, I like stupid conspiracy theories.
Yeah. Harmless.
Yeah. And I'll say, like, for a long time, like with Epstein, I wasn't sure how real it was, right? I didn't know how deep it was. And I knew that like the worst people on the internet, like Alex Jones, were obsessed with it, but like they were largely right here. Now, a lot of them were full of shit because Alex Jones isn't talking about it now because Trump is all over it. So he's a lot less able to talk about it because he's full of shit. But they were right here. And I think, to me, the more I learn, the more I question basically everything about it. I do question whether or not he's a foreign asset and he was gathering information for Russia or Israel or some other foreign adversary, however you want to describe them. I worry about that. I read about how much sulfuric acid that he ordered. And I start to hear the stories about the trapdoors at the Epstein Island. I read the stories about the ranch in New Mexico, which is owned by a guy who's a Republican mega donor now, whose son works at the White House. And he's refusing an investigation to the point that the New Mexico legislature had to create a special investigatory committee, which they did so unanimously, by the way, to go investigate that. So I think that what they're covering up here is greater than just the abuse of kids. It should be enough that they abuse little girls and they abuse little boys. It should be enough that they traffic people. But I think they're covering up murder, violence, espionage. I think they're covering up bribery. And I think a lot about Like Trump is clearly compromised. I don't know what type of compromised he is. I don't know what they have on him, but he's always seemed squirrely to me, refuses to say anything negative about Vladimir Putin. Lindsey Graham seems like a shell of a man. I don't understand what happened to him, but if you saw that video like 2 weeks ago of him on Hannity where he was clearly drunk and he was like looking up to the heavens, like he was looking for John McCain to come down and save his soul. I don't know what happened to these people. Like Lindsey Graham used to be somebody that even though I didn't care for him, like he seemed like he had character and there's something really nefarious here and I just don't know what it is. I hate to speculate, but that's all you have because none of us believes at our core, Michael, I'll hand it back to you in a second, is none of us believe at our core that our government is going to take this seriously on any level, whether it be the espionage, the violence, or the abuse of kids.
And Mike, that's the point. I mean, you ended it with an exclamation point. That's exactly the problem. Is what this is going to shake the foundational confidence of all, us as Americans, but other governments too around the world of what is going on, what our government has been complicit in, what our government has been involved in covering up. The amount of cynicism, like you hear stories about what Watergate did. I'm sure there's some viewers that will remember that. This is by a factor of 1,000 bigger than Watergate. I mean, this is extraordinary. And I'm not sure what recovers and what doesn't. So back to our earlier part of this conversation of people kind of locking arms and realizing as much as we love this country, and we all do, I don't know how much you can love the operators in our government, this government anymore. Like we're going to have to rebrand, do a deep, deep, deep cleanse and figure out how we're going to operate going forward. Because if this was able to collapse this badly, this deeply for this long, what are we fixing? What can you fix from these ashes? I'm not too sure what that is.
I mean, this is why I'm becoming like a single issue voter for 2028. Like I'm going to vote for the candidate that I think is best able to break the Epstein class. And I will not support a technocrat. I won't. And if I think that you're just going to go like, look, I loved Joe Biden. Okay. And like, he was not my candidate in the 2020 primary, but I love Joe Biden and his value proposition to us was, hey, I'm going to clean up this mess and I'm going to hand it off to the future and we're going to be okay. And he hasn't done that much damage. I can fix this. And he did a lot of that, but he stuck on for too long and he should have kept his promise on being a bridge to the next generation. We can't do that now. Like we can't afford for it to be like, oh, Michelle Obama's going to run and she's going to be our bridge to the future. Like that can't, I hear a lot of people say that, like that can't be it. It's got to be the next generation of where this country's going. It's got to be somebody with the stomach to use power the way that they've shown us that power can be used in America. And it's got to be used to help people. And it's got to be used to break this class of people. And I don't know if that's like John Ossoff, who's like very much on the rise right now. I'm generally a Ro Khanna hater in my life, but you could convince me it's Ro Khanna right now. You could convince me of basically anybody if I think that they're going to be a true leader that's going to come in and do this, somebody who is not part of this class and is going to appoint an attorney general that's going to be an absolute motherfucker. Like to just go after. And by the way, it's not just us because I want them to investigate Bill Clinton and Bill Gates and, Reid Hoffman and anybody else that's in the files. I want them to ban insider trading. I want them to go deep on these poly markets and these Kalshis and all this other stuff. And like, I'm on Substack right now. Substack just made a deal with Polymarket. I logged in today to send a post, just a regular post in their little notes feature. They've got a little button now that you can add a Polymarket betting market to the bottom of this. And Substack, I love you guys. I'm not going anywhere, but I don't like that stuff. I think it's stealing, particularly from young men. I think it's corrupt and unregulated. We have to go in on all of that. I see Arlene says Katie Fang for Attorney General. I'll tell you what, if I'm president of the United States, Katie Fang's my first call for AG. 100%. Then we're putting Don Lemon as deputy AG just to really piss off the right.
I think there's a case. I think there's a case in a lane for Mike Nellis for president coming up. I like the speech, brother. I'm with you. I'm 110%.
At most, I'm running for Democratic committeeman in my ward, which is basically county party chair. That's about it. I'm very comfortable. I'm on the school council down the street. I'm sourcing beanbag chairs for kids in the sensory room. I'm about as happy as I'm going to get in public service doing that.
We'll see. Yeah, you're a big voice in the country, and we appreciate you. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm not going to let you off the hook yet, but you keep doing what you're doing. Keep growing what you're growing.
And this is not a knock on anybody in particular. I'm deeply skeptical of influencers turn candidates. So I would only do it if I really thought I could win, because there's a lot of them that do it, not for president or anything, but maybe Congress someday. But it's like, I would only do it if I really thought I was the right guy at the right moment, and I'd put a real campaign together. I don't like people that do it just to get more famous. Like, I hate that shit.
Yeah. I get that.
I mean, let's dive into our second topic because I want to talk about your expertise for a second because we had this conversation where we were talking about gerrymandering, and I think it was the very first conversation you and I ever had, and I gave you my take on why I thought Democrats should go with the strategy that we ultimately did, which was to gerrymander the shit out of every Democratic state to fight back, and I think that was still right. But you pointed out at the time, and you deserve your flowers for this, that the Republican gerrymandering in Texas may very well backfire on them if they base it on the way the Latino vote occurred in 2024, which is what they did do. And now they've got all these like R+8, R+12 districts, and the Latino vote is cratering for the Republicans, primarily because of the economy, but also because of ICE. And give me your take on like where we're at. Are we going to witness blue Texas at the end of the year? I think we may.
It's a great question. And I've been asked that question a lot because you used to hear turn Texas blue a lot more than you did in the pre-Trump era than the post era. The Beto O'Rourke stuff kind of ran that course out, I think. Yeah. And the main reason why that belief system existed in the Democratic Party was this old idea that Latinos were forever going to be an 80% Democratic constituency. And I was saying, hold on, that's not exactly right. But what you're seeing now is Latinos are really the I don't want to say the last true swing vote because young people are swinging too. And there's a lot of overlap, by the way, between young and Latino in this country demographically. So there's a lot of debate about, is it generational or is it an ethnic argument? Either way, they're both moving away from the Republican parties by very historic numbers. Mm-hmm. But remember, Mike, and this is what we were talking about last summer, it's not just that the Republicans created the 5 Republican districts, but they had to weaken other districts to get there. They had to peel out. They had to take R+15 and take them down to R+12 to get there, R+11, some R+8s. You better believe that those members are worried because they should be. When you start to see in New Jersey, for example, all the polling showing it's a Dem +2, Dem +3 governor's race, and it ends up a Dem +17, like the weighting that is going on in our polling is dramatically underestimating the intensity on the Democratic side. Yeah. And what I was trying to share back then in the summer was all of the indicators on the fundamentals of the race are moving in that direction, including a very bad and souring economy. In 2018, in Trump's first midterms, the Democrats had a huge year. That was when we first started using the blue wave terminology. They pick up 40 seats and just crush Donald Trump. But in 2018, you got to remember, the economy was doing really good for working class people, for Latinos, for African Americans. Guys, it's bad now. On top of everything else, that's yet another indicator that it's going to be a really, really bad year for the Republicans. And so what I was saying is let's just be a little bit calm. Let's hold our horses because the environment is moving into a very strong position for the Democrats, regardless of this egregious gerrymander. They're putting themselves in bigger jeopardy than people think they are. And Mike, it's not only in Texas. They're in trouble in some R+10 seats. Look at the special election in Texas last Saturday night. Yeah. That was an R+14 seat that goes R+17 that goes R+14 for a Democrat in a 31-point swing. Yes. 31. I've been doing this a long time. I don't have much hair left and I've got a gray beard, but even when I had hair and a darker beard, I've never seen a 31-point swing. Ever.
No,
that's unheard of.
Well, that's like those swings in Georgia last November where it was like a 60-point swing in like a Georgia statewide judges race, and you were like, "Holy crap!" I think the race that should be the scariest for Republicans was the special election in Tennessee where Afton Bain was running, because they poured so much money and resources into that to elevate the turnout to a midterm style electorate. That's going to be the same turnout roughly that they'll get this November, and they won it. But it was still a 14-point swing. It was just a really conservative district. So if we're in a world where, let's just talk about Texas for a second, because this is where all these districts are. We've also got a statewide Senate race, which is really important. If it's a swing of 8 to Texas is an R+10 state, right? I believe Trump +10, I think, in the last election. So if we're in an environment that's 8 to 12 points more Democratic come November, which I think is a pretty reasonable expectation right now, plus we nominate somebody like James Tallarico, who I think has real crossover appeal with independent Republican voters, versus the lieutenant governor, who is a lunatic and a corrupt asshole who's in the middle of a messy divorce right now. And he's the front runner in the race, guys, who, by the way, will be beating a longtime incumbent in John Cornyn. you could see Tallarico picking up an extra couple points, which would then swing House races down below, like what Tim Ryan did in Ohio against J.D. Vance. And then if it's a bad candidate, it could depress the Republican turnout by a couple points. And that could be blue fucking Texas, guys. Sorry, Mike, take it. No, take it.
No, that's exactly right. And like I said, even without a Paxton, and I think Paxton would be a nightmare. If it's Tallarico Paxton, I will say, as somebody who has been very anti-Texas going blue for demographic reasons, I'm going to have to take a real step back and go, this is as likely as it is not. This is a coin toss now, arguably favoring Tallarico. And the Republicans' own polling is showing that, by the way.
And I want to remind people, like, Beto O'Rourke damn nearly flipped Texas. I mean, it was only a couple of points off. Now running against Cruz, who is a perennial underperformer because everybody hates Ted Cruz. But, like, again, this situation is a lot worse. And I think that over the course of this summer, Republicans think they're going to get bailed out by all the money that they have in MAGA Inc., which, by the way, is a mistake. I don't think that money's coming home to roost for them. That MAGA Inc. money ain't for House Republicans, guys. It's not. It's for Donald Trump.
And not only that, but even that money at a certain point, the money doesn't matter. I mean, I said as a campaign professional, you've done campaigns, Mike. There's a point of marginal returns. Well, you're looking at the polling going, we have all the money we need. We can't move the needle anymore. We can't convince people that things are okay. No matter how much money we spend, their own reality is telling them things are not okay. And that's where we're at now, and it's getting worse. And like I said, I would never want ill on our country. I don't want people who are suffering to suffer more. But I don't think anybody on the show listening thinks the economy is going to get better in the next 8 months, or that ICE is going to rein it in and start being responsible. They're not.
No.
So all of that is going to get worse. The environment's going to get worse. You're seeing this 36, 37% floor for Trump. He could hit 35, 34. 36, by the way, that's already a devastating election for Trump. That's when Texas comes into play. You start seeing 35 and 34, and that's an environment none of us have ever seen before. This could get really, 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 really bad.
That's what 2008 was. Like, not to bring up painful memories, Mr. Madrid, but that's what 2008 was. Because, I remind people of this all the time because we've got Democrats get, rose-eye glasses for the past. Those Bush years, I think were pretty rough at the end. And because of what happened with the economy and the Iraq war. And I think generally you also had like a cultural shift where people were like, I'm tired of this moment in time, so let's shift to a new thing. That's happening now too, where I think the Bad Bunny stuff was so bad for the Republicans because people were like, well, that was lovely. I don't understand why anybody's so mad about that. And I just think that like you get to this moment of turning the page. That's when like John Tester gets elected in Montana and holds on for 3 terms. That's when you start to go like, wow, Mary Peltola is going to win that Alaska Senate race. I actually think Mary Peltola is the front runner right now in that race. She's already won statewide. The economy's bad and it's a ranked choice voting election and she's going to have more money than God. And that's another thing on money too. I'll add this, Mike, and then you give me your take on it. But I think the media, when they talk about the financial differences between the DNC and the RNC, which is functionally useless, those are not the two organizations that are going to spend the most amount of money anyway. The super PACs that spend, they don't get the same deals that campaigns do. A TV ad and a digital ad is cheaper to run on a political campaign with the way the law is working than it is for a super PAC. They get preferred rates. And so when you, to the 1,300 people that are watching this live right now, when you make a $5 donation to James Tallarico's Senate campaign, it goes a lot further than it does if you make it to a super PAC. And I apologize to my friends at super PACs, some of whom I run your online fundraising programs, but like it goes further directly to a campaign and it's spent more efficiently on a campaign. So there's an advantage that Democrats have because our small dollar donations are so much more effective. They're annoying as hell, guys. I know that they are. Trust me, I run some of them. But like they're more effective and efficient on the campaigns, but they can get a billionaire to give $300 million. It's not the same amount of money when you spend it, if that makes sense.
That's right. And let me give some free advice here to people who are like looking to be like, how can I be the most useful? Look at those marginal Senate seats right now and invest there.
Yep.
Don't go to the battleground seats because one, those battleground seats are going to be very well financed, very well resourced, and I think they're going to do very, very well. If you can start putting a Kansas in play, an Iowa in play, give it to Peltola in Alaska, that's where you're going to see the map expand. And that early strength is going to change the tactics of the whole chessboard. So I should probably start talking a little bit more about that because a lot of these smaller donors, a lot of them get sucked into kind of giving to these big fights that are already going to be overwhelmed. You're 100, $200 doesn't matter when you've got an Elon Musk coming in. There's going to be fully funded money on those battleground seats. This is a once in a generation opportunity for Democrats to really expand into and push the boundary into some seats that nobody else would think would be incontestable.
Well, and it sets us up for 28 too, because when we elect a Democratic president in 28, they need to have enough Senate seats to be able to govern effectively. And I have a couple people asking in the comments. I'm going to give you my quick ranking of Senate seats because I want people to just understand the way I see it. Mike, I'll give you a chance to go after me and you tell me if you disagree on any of this. I think the tier ones right now, the ones where Democrats are the most likely to flip at this moment, would be Maine and North Carolina. Roy Cooper is going to run over the state of North Carolina. I love him, and my friends on his campaign will be mad. He doesn't need a single dime from any of you. He's going to have more than enough cash to do what he's got to do. Maine is a trickier situation, but I think Collins is probably toast in this environment. Again, I think this environment will be worse than 2018 for Collins. 2020 for Collins, I do think that primary gives me a little bit of hesitation. I think Democrats have two flawed candidates in that, which is Plattner. I don't know enough about Plattner. An accidental Nazi tattoo scares the shit out of me as a Democratic strategist, guys. Can he overcome it? Absolutely. And then, with Janet Mills, I worry about her age. She's won statewide. She's well liked statewide, but she's also very old. I don't know. I'm pretty uncomfortable with both choices there. I'm not playing in either of those races, by the way. We also need to maintain in Georgia. We need to maintain in Michigan. I think depending upon how the Michigan primary plays out, we'll be okay. I prefer Mallory McMorrow. Then you start to get elsewhere. Like, where can we get the other two? I think Sherrod Brown in Ohio could really use your money. I really do. He's raising a lot of money, but that's a race that is sneaky off everybody's radar, and I do think that we can win that race. He was the second or third overperformer versus Kamala Harris in the last election. Now the situation's a lot more democratic for him, and there's a competitive governor's race in that race that makes it more likely for Ohio to turn blue again. And you really want to see like Ohio and Iowa get back into the blue territory. I think Josh Turek in Iowa is probably the likely candidate in Iowa. I'd put Ohio above Iowa, but it's there. Your money can go pretty far there. I'd put Alaska over Texas because Peltola's won statewide. And then I would get to Texas. I know some folks love Jasmine Crockett. I respect every single one of you who does. She's not my preferred candidate in the race, but if you want to support her, that's fine. The voters in Texas will make that decision for us, and I'll run through a brick wall no matter who the nominee is. And then you go a little bit further down. I think Vindman plus Jolly in Florida is worth taking a look at. I think that has an opportunity to be successful, but Florida's a really expensive state, which gives me pause. So I would rank Nebraska over Florida because we've got an independent candidate who's running. Why is his name escaping me? Dan.
In Nebraska?
Yeah, Nebraska. Dan Osborne, excuse me. Yeah, Dan Osborne's running as an independent candidate against Pete Ricketts. Pete Ricketts is a terrible campaigner. And people are pretty frustrated with him. He was a shitty governor and they didn't really like him. So I think that there's an opportunity there to oust a Republican senator with an independent. And there's a couple other races like that in like South Dakota stuff too. Your money goes far in Nebraska and South Dakota. So in Nebraska, I would kick a little bit of money to Dan Osborne if you want to try to pull that off. It's a tough one, but he damn near beat Deb Fischer last cycle. So that's my quick run through of the Senate races that are like on my radar right now, some of which I am working on. But Mike, you want to add anything to that?
I think that's really smart. And I think I would probably say exactly the same way in that order but I would say this, and maybe this is where you're thinking too. I think North Carolina goes blue this year. Yeah. That's always been my white whale because demographically, that should have been a blue seat consistently. As much as Georgia has kind of moved into that contention, that it hasn't. The funny thing about North Carolina is what you see that is different than Georgia is college-educated whites vote like non-college educated white voters more than they probably should. And I would say that's a southern state thing, except Georgia's not doing that. And Texas still has that problem a little bit. But so I'd say North Carolina, Maine, and Maine always gives me heartburn because when I was at the Lincoln Project, we spent probably $8 million just beating the shit out of Susan Collins.
Yep.
And I was convinced that it was closer than it was, but the bottom sort of fell out. It also fell out. Lindsey Graham pulled off that race too. So remember what happened in 2020 is Trump loses down ticket, but the Republicans actually picked up seats in the House and did better in the Senate than everybody expected. The voters are very methodical. They're very smart. They're very surgical. They know what's going on. They vote between these two parties. But I think, again, this looks a lot more like 2018 or, like you said, in 2008, where people have just had it. And across the board, they're going to vote like the Montanas like a tester. So I'm North Carolina, blue. I think either candidate is going to be in strong contention in Maine. I like Ohio. This is a guy who hasn't liked Ohio in 10 years. It's also why, like, I'm don't want to be flirting with Texas. I don't want to look at Texas, but Texas keeps flirting with me and saying, "Take a look, take a look, take a look." But I do like Ohio. I just like the map. I like the map. I do. I would put Alaska over Texas too. But I'm not going to say I'm going to reserve judgment on Texas. I want to see what the outcome of this election is. I'm a little bit more bold in saying if you're maybe I shouldn't say it that way. If you want to put a bigger map in play nationally, vote for James Tallarico. Because it's not just the competitiveness of that race, which is quantifiably true. He's got a 2 or 3 point edge over Crockett against whichever candidate it is, but it will suck up all the Republican money to defend Texas.
Yes.
And that's money that would otherwise be going to Florida, and maybe Vindman doesn't win, but I think Vindman's a strong candidate in Florida in this environment too. Look at Miami's results.
Yeah.
Like
that Miami mayoral election should scare the shit out of them. Particularly
you're seeing Latino Cuban men are sitting it out.
Well, and by the way, it was leaked yesterday that Marco Rubio is trying to make a secret deal with the president of Cuba right now. So, like, those are things that ripple throughout that community. It's not my community, but I understand just enough of it to know that stuff hurts.
Yeah, agreed. So anyway, the way you've outlined it, I think, is exactly the way that I would be looking at it. How we allocate resources might be a little bit different, but it's a much bigger map than people think at this moment in time.
Yeah, I'll add too. I want people to when you think about Texas, think about it like Tim Ryan running against JD Vance. I sort of said this earlier, but I'm going to go one layer deeper on it. So Tim Ryan ran statewide for Senate against JD Vance, and he lost. And so a lot of people would look at that and go, "Well, Tim Ryan lost." Well, Tim Ryan put together probably the best coordinated campaign of volunteers and paid media that Ohio had seen since Barack Obama was president. And because of that, we flipped 2 congressional seats in Ohio. So in this election, where they've meddled with this redistricting that they've done, where they have all these now R+15 districts that are now R+12, R+8 districts, a really strong coordinated campaign led by James Tallarico, I think does much better. Now, again, if you support Jasmine Crockett, that's great. I like Jasmine Crockett. I'm not attacking her, but I do think like the strategy of it bears out greater here now. But again, it'll be up to the Texas voters to decide that. It's not a knock on her. It's just that I think we'll be in a better spot to win that race with Tallarico given the crossover appeal. But again, we've gone from the beginning of last year where it seemed like we did not have any opportunity to flip the Senate. And I would say it's a 50-50 proposition now. And Mike, I'm running out of time, so I'm going to give you the last word here.
No, just thanks for having me. This is great. It's a good conversation. Let's kind of do it a little bit more regularly. But the key things to be looking for, guys, is the energy on the ground. You're looking at ballots coming in a wave much, much bigger than 2000 and the last midterm elections. In 2018, we're seeing stuff in Texas right now with early momentum, regardless of whether it's Crockett or Tallarico, that should be really frightening, horrifying Republicans. And it's consistent with everything we've seen with all of the 2025 elections. So this wave is not petering out. It is getting stronger.
Yeah, that's right. And I want to remind people, we have a little bit of a dust up on Tallarico versus Crockett in the comments. Like, it's okay, guys, to have 2 good Democrats that we like running in a primary. All right.
Yeah, it's good for a party.
It's good for the primaries are good for the party. And let's just remember, whoever wins, we're running through the tape for them because it's important that Democrats win. No matter where their political lean is or however I feel about them strategy wise, because we're gonna run through tape. Same with Maine, right? I'm gonna run hard for Graham Flatner in the general. I'm gonna run hard for Jana Mills in the general. So whoever it is, everybody, thank you so much. Everybody, hit the heart button to say thank you to Mike Madrid. Please make sure you follow him on Substack and on all major social media platforms. He's very smart and at least once a day makes me laugh. I feel like you say a few things to make me chuckle. Subscribe, become a paid subscriber to him on Substack. Support his work. We need more people out there that are doing it and speaking up. And if you'd like to support Endless Urgency, $8 a month, $80 a year to help us pay for our studio, our work to build up YouTube so that we can reach young men, and to help our staff. Nobody's in here, but I always refer to them as if they're right here. But we have 2 staff members. They're the ones that you guys are helping make sure get paid a living wage and good benefits. I don't take a dime out of this because I have a day job. But I appreciate you guys so much. And Mike, we'll definitely have you back sooner than 4 months or however long it took this time.
All right, Mike. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.